shit, tearing it imperative. Then I'm killing this mic no matter where I live. These derelict rappers acting the fool, this embarrassing is flagrant. That's the nature of this entertainment, and we can't even change it. Guilty before arraignment, now the system tainted. But when we speak, they all laugh at us. And y'all wonder why I'm lacking trust. Trying to fight a giant with attorneys that can back them up. That's church versus science, both sides start acting up. I'm late on my assignment, hopping up a mile high, climbing, obviously never silent. New alignment, I'm defined, can I describe it? Used to describe it as a young graffiti artist. Before the beard, I always got carded. At every bar, even though my bar's been the hardest. The scars on my face said I ain't always been the smartest, but I'll show you where my heart is. I said I'll show you where my heart is. I can show you where my heart's at. See it on my sleeves, even if the beat stops, my soul will not leave. If I never stood tall, nobody will ever see. I can show you where my heart's at. See it on my sleeve, I can show you where my heart's at. See it on my sleeve, even if the beat stops, my soul will not leave. If I never stood tall, nobody will ever see. I can show you where my heart's at. See it on my sleeve, I can show you where my...
The type of guy that would ride with the breeze. I'm higher than most people, I'm cold and icicle freeze. I'm liking to Mike Tyson, I'm a bison, a beast. I'm hot like Jamaica, like right by the beach. My pops is from a spot where they're fighting for peace. 8 years old, out there watching people fight in the streets. All these sirens only make the violence increase. Yeah, we're still not loving police. It's that bright young American, nice, dumb, arrogant. Tight on a mic, but he might need a therapist. Heart full of kerosene, head full of fairy tales. Said that you're my homie, you don't know me, but I know you very well. Roll back on some West Coast shit. This whole track is wetter than your dress code kiss. About to hit the track, running on some retro fit. It gets so lit, I guess so, bitch, now let's go.
I can show you where my heart's at. See it on my sleeves, even if the beat stops, my soul will not leave. If I never stood tall, nobody will...
Let that breathe tonight, Pinky. Ladies and gentlemen, it is Tuesday. Little sports nonsense and whiskey, hanging with the fella, Pinky. Robert's off tonight. He's hanging with some friends he hadn't seen in a minute, so he's taking that moment like we always talk about. Cheers, my dude.
Oh, man, I got the last little bit of a bottle of 291 tonight.
Oh, yeah.
Junior got this for me for Christmas. This one is the rye. As you know, I'm not a huge fan of rye.
You are not. I am.
you gotta have some ice to thin that bad boy out for me. But there was only a little bit left, so I poured it straight. I'm gonna take it like a man. And we'll see how the night goes. If you see me making some faces, it's probably because that rye didn't hit me just right.
You would think after, 4.5 years of doing this, your taste buds would have been forced to just deal with it at this point.
Not a rye, man. Not a rye.
Nope, it's just not going to happen.
I don't mind a rye in an old-fashioned. And there's a couple other, mixed drinks that they use the rye for. That I think actually maybe the flavor works better in those drinks for me, for my taste buds. But straight up, me and rye are not good friends. So
it is what it is.
It is what it is. You know, I'm gonna drink it and make it work. The basically Junior's not 21 yet, so he has to give money to mom. Mom picks a bottle at the liquor. He said, "Go get Dad another bottle of 291." She grabbed a bottle. That's what she grabbed. So. It's Hannah's fault.
It happens. It happens.
She's not listening anyway, so it's fine.
Okay. Good stuff. Pinky's not in trouble. Everybody's happy.
She's out to dinner with a friend, so she's not listening. We're good.
All right. As she's sitting there showing her friend what her husband is doing tonight, and she's just now like, sorry, Hannah.
That's so bitch.
Oh, goodness.
Nonsense.
Should we talk the Penguin since Robert isn't here? That'd be fun, right? Talk a little Penguin now.
Dude, don't make me deal with that tomorrow.
He would be so angry.
I will say,
I wouldn't do that to him.
I did recommend Heels to you, and I finished season 2. Unfortunately, they canceled it after season 2, which sucks because season 2 ended on the greatest cliffhanger, right? There's a rumor that if the viewing goes well on Netflix might go ahead and pick it up for a third season, possibly. So if you're a fan of wrestling, you gotta watch Heels. That is it is just, it's exactly what wrestling should be, right? And local promotion, bunch of guys doing it not for the money but for the love of wrestling, and they're really good at storytelling. So
all right, well, I think I might actually end up starting it tomorrow. I snuck in the newest season that I didn't know even came out of Ink Master. Did you know an Ink Master came out back in October, November?
I haven't watched Ink Master at all.
So
I wouldn't be interested.
I'm like, there's a lot of good seasons that you saw some insanely awesome artwork, like just killer artwork. This season you saw really good tattoos, but I don't know if I saw any great artwork. So there's a couple that are like really, really good artwork, but like on a whole, I wouldn't say this season had a lot of great artwork. Just clean tattoos, which, I'm not mad about that. I always like seeing a clean tattoo, but if it's something where you're like, yeah, I've seen that before, or like it looks like you just went and grabbed that out of your book from your wall art and slapped it on there, kind of thing, like that's the kind of stuff where I'm like, like, to each their own. If that's what you want, I'm never going to judge somebody else's tattoo. Like, all mine have meaning to me, I got them for a reason. So
I still judge Robert's star, but that's just because it's one star. It's not a grouping of stars. Wasn't it supposed to be like kind of like the state of California flag, and then somehow it morphed into just a star? I don't know. I have to ask him about it again. But
yeah, didn't his dad and his grandpa or his uncle or something all get it at the same time?
There was a couple of them. They all got a star, and I was just like, that just looks weird, man, because it's a little tiny star. It just doesn't look right on a dude. But I told him, you just got to figure out something and touch it up. Add something next to it, you'll be fine.
No. Yeah, again, each their own.
But I will only tell my friends if their tattoo's a little off.
Yeah, I mean, you don't want to walk up to a complete stranger because you don't know what they're capable of. You don't want to do that.
I did. So when I was in the chair last week, getting mine started, there was a guy, and he's got a horror tattoo that's on his leg, and he's already got Pennywise and big, like giant Pennywise, Scream mask guy. Yeah. He had Freddy Krueger, and he had someone else in there, and then he was in there getting Jason added. Damn, it was awesome. I was like, I couldn't do that because I'm not into horror like that.
Me neither.
But I was like, wow, like that was really awesome. And it was it went all the way around his leg, and so Jason was going in the back of the hammy.
Oof.
And going into the crevice of the knee, like right in that section, and it was like, ooh. He took it like a champ. I don't know if I could like stop myself from kicking the artist.
Yeah, that would be a tough area.
I might have to have someone like actually like tie my leg down so it didn't come up when they hit a spot.
People always tend to say the ribs are the worst, but I mean, they weren't fun by any means. I can attest to that, but I don't know if like, I think about getting like my armpit or like the back of my knee, or like there's some other areas that I feel like would be a lot worse than my ribs were.
I hear the calf's pretty bad, and I've been contemplating doing like Spawn.
Calf isn't terrible.
I want to do Spawn, and I was thinking Lady Death on
it.
Spawn on one.
You can't get some of the muscle twitches like you were just talking about on the calf, because I've got my calf done, but it wasn't. I didn't think it was bad.
Okay. I still got a lot of real estate to work on, so
Me too. Way too much. I
Well,
shouldn't have as much as I do right now, but I do.
We'll get you there, buddy. We'll get you there. All right. Is that about it, nonsense-wise, I guess?
I mean, I don't.
Robert's not here to bring up all the other nerd stuff that we would probably talk about.
Yeah, I don't really have a whole lot else of the nonsensical attire.
I'm gonna go see Love Hurts next week. A new action film with Marshawn Lynch, and it's got the guy. It's grown up, but I can't say his name. But he was Data in Goonies, and he was Short Round in Indiana Jones. He took a 20-year hiatus, and now he's back, and he's doing a cool action film called Love Hurts. And then the following week is the new Captain America. So I think I'm gonna take my dad to the Love Hurts action movie. Not something my mom would go see. She'll go see Captain America, but she won't. She wouldn't want to go see Love Hurts. So I'm gonna take him to that for his birthday, I think.
Okay, nice.
So I'll have a review of that when we get back.
Started that, so I'll get caught up on that here soon and be able to discuss that a little bit. And I'm actually getting close to getting caught up here.
So you're getting through Rings of Power season 2?
No. We're season 1 still, but
okay.
it's the wife likes it, and so I think we're already we started it over the week, and we're already on episode 5, I think.
Okay.
Or somewhere in there. So we're moving through it quick, and there's no football on during the weekdays, so I've got more free time during the weekdays to watch stuff too. So knocking some stuff out.
Right on, man. Did you watch Raw last night?
I caught a few bits and pieces.
Okay. Well, at least you got a little bit. Now that football's over, Raw's available. I had to go to do something with my daughter at her high school for next year. So I caught it. I started a little bit late, but I did watch it all. Trying to think what really stood out. There was some talking back and forth between Gunther and Seth Rollins, which then got interrupted as well. So I want to say it was Drew McIntyre that interrupted it, I believe.
Didn't see that, so that sounds right.
And then CM Punk interrupts
Cody at the end of the night.
Yeah. Cody at the end of the night. Sami Zayn hits Cody with another Lua kick after he hit Seth Rollins last week. So he's been making the rounds, which makes it look like maybe something's brewing between him. Kevin Owens did say that if he helps him win the title, he would give him the first title match. So Sammy's got decisions to make. I will say, since it's been on Netflix, which I enjoy because I can watch it, and because I hated having to wait for a day for it to hit Hulu or whatever I was watching it on, and I'd like to watch it when I want to watch it.
Sure.
I saw that thing you sent me where viewership has gone down, which that's probably going to happen.
I mean, I feel like it's to be expected. That first night on Netflix is obviously going to be a big event. Let's see what happens this weekend, right? Like,
well, I think there's a couple things going on. There are a couple people who we're expecting an edgier, more mature content. Maybe we'll get that at some point, but I think right now they're still trying to see, now that it's on Netflix, can we bring kids into it? There's not really any swearing. There's not.
I don't think it's ever going to go back to the Attitude Era now. I really don't.
If it really wanted to explode, that's what they would do.
I mean, if we're being honest, opening night on Netflix was, at least for me, a huge letdown. Like that was very weak.
I think the matches were pretty good, and they were, more top shelf talent that were in the matches. Did we see anything that was like crazy amazing? No.
The problem with the
But
matches is while they weren't bad, they weren't good because they were like everything was on fast forward, so they could bring in all these extra guests to say 3 things and then walk out. You know what I mean? Like,
right.
so that wasn't good, but it had a ton of viewership. Next week, it dropped off by about half. I think it went from about 6 million viewers to 3 million worldwide, or 3 point something. And then this week, it was a little bit less than it was the week before. I wouldn't be surprised if it hovers around 3, 2.8 to 3.4, something like that all year.
And I think you made a great point about, in this case, why you may not catch it live if you know you can literally watch it whenever you want.
Yeah.
Like, you literally can just pull up Netflix and be like, oh, I can watch last week's episode and I can watch this week's episode and get caught up. And like, it gives you that ability to like view it whenever. I will even admit, when you watch it live, you've got ads. When you watch it on playback, no ads.
Are you serious?
Yeah. Because when it was on for not the college football playoff one, that one I watched on the tablet, but the week before with the Bucks playing against the Commanders, that was Monday Night Football. I watched the Monday Night Football and I was focused on, Monday Night Football. I watched it on like Wednesday, and it still goes to commercial break at those moments. Like, it stops at that moment. You don't see what was in between, but they bring it right back in wherever they brought you in after commercial with no commercials. So, like,
well, might have to start watching it that way.
Unless they change it up where they actually give you, like, I have heard they edit out some stuff, but if you're not getting any cursing or boobs flying or anything like that on the live stream, if they cut a little out, like, what does it matter? You're not watching ads. So
they need to, I mean, I'm still not in. Like, they need to do, if I'm gonna be honest with you, if this weekend isn't good, I might be out for a little while still. I need some storylines to be done with and start doing new things, and let's re-inject some energy.
What's the men's Royal Rumble storyline that would help you get you excited? Because I can tell who's going to win.
Who do you think is going to win?
CM Punk's going to win.
That's kind of what I think as well. And then he gets to choose between Gunther or Cody Rhodes.
He's choosing Cody.
I know. I'm just saying that would be his right. He'd get to choose between the two.
And they played that up last night.
I agree, and I'd be out if that's how that goes. I would be out. Like, that's a lame, boring storyline. Listening to them talk last night was pathetic. And then they do that whole Cody walks away, and then CM's like, "Oh wait," kind of like tries to grab his arm,
I wasn't
like,
done yet.
Brings, "I'm not done with you," and then he tries to walk away, and then Cody grabs him. "I'm not done either." Like, dude, the storylines and the writing are pretty lame right now. For me, anyways, like, I'm having a hard time finding something to get behind.
I'm liking what they're doing with Kevin Owens right now. I
do like Kevin Owens as a heel.
I kind of like. I mean, Gunther's Gunther. He's always all about business.
See, I'm not a big Gunther guy.
I like Gunther a lot.
I know you guys like him. I'm not.
Jay is my.
I like Jay.
Jay is one of the more entertaining guys.
Seth's been kind of pushed to the side. He's not really spotlight guy right now, it feels like. So
I think our buddy Cody, if at some point he catches this, we were talking offline, and I'm rooting for John Cena to win the Rumble.
Yeah.
But Cody was like, they're already premiering Elimination Chamber
with him in it.
With him on the
what are we
posters
doing?
And everything.
Right. I saw that
which
too.
means
Stupid.
He's going to probably be in an Elimination Chamber. Well, there's no point to have him in an Elimination Chamber if he wins Rumble, because he already got the WrestleMania match at Rumble. Because doesn't Elimination Chamber get the other guy?
I thought so.
Is how it works.
Unless they're changing it. But, like, here's the deal. To me, they're just going to waste Cena's last year. And they're either going to make him a goof still, or he's going to win the title but it's going to be in such a like lackluster, boring way that it won't matter either.
I don't feel that way. The way that he's talked about it, I think if he were to win it for that 17th time, he's gonna earn it because that's how he wants to go out. He doesn't want to go out as a guy that it was just given to and that he wasn't up to snuff.
Yeah, well,
to win it, right?
Pinky, I believe him when he says that's what he wants to do, but I also don't believe he has any choice in the matter based on what they've done with him for the last 5 years. If he had a say in a matter, there is no way he would allow himself to have gone through those last 5 years. There's no way. It made him look awful. It didn't live up to his name, his character, his image, nothing.
And that has a lot to do
against boring ass you know who. There was Vince McMahon's little crony come up.
Austin Theory.
It was awful. It was awful.
That was bad. And I think that had a lot to do with how Vince McMahon was writing things. And that I don't know why you bring one of your legends of the game back to continually have someone go over on them. Like, Austin Theory didn't gain any more heat by beating Cena in a lame match.
Nope.
Like, the idea when you do that is that they have a really damn great match and Austin Theory comes out the victor and the crowd loves him for it, which then grows his character, grows his reach. And when you put him in a lame ass match and you have him win, like the Austin Theory Pat McAfee match was more entertaining than the Cena Theory match. So
I think the other thing is, you know, if you're a somewhat newer fan to WWE, you hear everybody talk about John Cena. You see him all over the place in movies and TV and stuff now. But if you're a new fan, you're going, why? This guy is popular because that's his spiel. You can't see me, and then he comes out and gets his ass handed to him every time. That's what he got famous for? Like, that's what you're thinking. You're not thinking of this badass on a lot of people's Mount Rushmore. A lot of people might call him the GOAT. And you don't get that sense if you're a newer fan. That's what's crazy.
I'm glad you brought that up because I've been thinking about this for a little bit. And so I'm glad you brought that up. As a new fan, if you were coming up as a new fan, like Robert is a new fan, would you say that maybe us from the, I grew up in the 80s, 90s, early 2000s wrestling fan, were we just spoiled by the immense amount of talent and great characters?
Yeah.
Because I'm thinking, and I'm like, they're pushing Cody. Cody's fine. There's nothing wrong with Cody.
Right.
But to me,
Cody's B-list back in the day.
I don't see Cody as a superstar. I don't see Roman Reigns as a superstar.
You and me both talked about that. No, neither.
He's a heel, and he comes off as a dick really well. And what's funny is when he's got interviews, like he sounds like a dick all the time. Like he's not the guy where it's like you hear him off, when he's not in character, you hear him and you go,
he's either always in that character or he's just finally getting to be himself.
Right.
I mean,
now, and this maybe leads me into the next topic. I wanted to talk wrestling before we move on. Again, I like Gunther. I like Jay. And I like Jay because he brings the energy. His matches are always entertaining.
I like Jay.
I like Logan Paul a lot because his matches to me are entertaining. He plays that character well. He's playing the arrogant. He came out last night and that's what it was. He was the guy that interrupted Gunther and Jay. And he started talking, and he killed it. When he got on the mic, I think
he's really good.
And I was like, okay. So that got me thinking, like, as a newer fan, who would I gravitate to? Because I feel like we do have a bunch of talented guys. I feel like we have a lot of great athletes that put on a great show in the ring. But I do feel like the storyline, the character development, the, like, and again, maybe we were spoiled. Undertaker, Stone Cold, The Rock, John Cena, Triple H, Ric Flair was in there. Hogan was still wrestling with these guys. Mankind, Edge and Christian, the Hardy Boys, the Dudley Boys. Like, we had all these guys all at once that you could always grab. Like, the tag team right now, I watched the War Raiders, did a match last night. They're brute force. The really big 400-pound guy that they have can do shit a 400-pound guy shouldn't be able to do.
Sure.
So that's cool. But, like, they don't get on the mic and, like, it's not entertaining. Like, the out of the ring stuff with these guys are not as entertaining. And I feel like that's where I would say, as a new fan, what is there to get yourself excited about or attached to when they're not in the ring?
Right.
I think there's stuff in the ring and their performance that you can get excited about and what you're seeing. But what always took you to that next level was the promos, the outside the ring, everything extra about that person, their entrance music, all of, like, everything together. And right now we don't have that superstar that's killer on the mic, amazing in the ring, great villain or great hero, however whatever you gravitate to, right? We just don't have those guys.
I think Seth was that guy for a little while. He carried Raw for a couple years. And for whatever reason, they don't want him being that voice right now. But they don't have anybody else, it feels like you were saying. And I am still going to err on the side of saying it's the writing. Whoever's drawn up the scripts is just trash. They got their job because they got on their knees, and good for them. But it's just bad. They're not giving you anything to bring you in and draw you in and keep you.
Like, I thought the Wyatt Six would be something, like, really special and cool. Nothing. It's just nothing. So now that brings me to the second part. If I was a young fan, I do think on the female side, there are lots of cool characters to get attached to.
I agree with that.
I actually think, like, the women's roster at this point is, like, tremendous.
Yeah.
Like, when I started looking, I was like, okay, you got Liv Morgan. You got Tiffany Stratton. You got Rhea Ripley. You've got Nia Jax. I think Rhea and Nia are kind of like the same, like the brutality, the brute force. Liv and Tiff more agile, or Io Sky and Asuka. You got Bianca Belair, who can do a little bit of both, the really cool wrestling and the brute force.
Same with
Jade. Although Jade's really slow, but Becky Lynch. Charlotte Flair's coming back now too, right? Chelsea Green, and I love that they finally made an American champ and an Intercontinental Women's champ, because I think they saw the same thing I'm seeing is we have a lot of women talent and we can't have them just fighting for 2 belts.
Yep. They got to start branching them out just like the men have now.
And then there's rumors, Alexis Bliss is still rumored to be working out a contract. And there's some rumors that we might see AJ Lee back as well, based on CM Punk has been back for a while. Now AJ Lee comes back, right? So the talent in the women's division, to me, is on another level. And that's where I think they've kind of taken over for the males, which has never been the case.
You're right in a way, but even their storylines are weak. Like, even their storylines are like, okay, fine.
Now, I will say I'm not always in it for all of the storylines. I'm in it a lot for the wrestling, the athletic, ability to see stuff that, you're like, whoa. Like, again, I don't know what storyline they're going to do with Penta. It looks like they're going to have him chase Braun Breaker. They kind of brought that up last night.
There's another name. Braun Breaker could have been doing a lot of things. They've had him, like, stuffed in a cupboard somewhere for years.
So
it feels like.
Well, when you see him in the ring, he does crazy stuff for a guy his size. But when he's on the mic, he does not have it.
It's like, do they not coach him up for that anymore? They're like, either you can do it or you can't. We're not going to teach you anymore. Like, what's going on?
It's a part of wrestling school, and normally you've got to have it all for them to move you forward. He just happens to have a name, and because he's Rick Steiner's son, and then also it's B, or Scott Steiner. Well, he's one of the Steiner sons. And then B, like, in the ring, that dude is crazy.
Sure.
It's just when he gets on the mic, you're just kind of like, eh. Like, I'm not
Or does
interested.
he know how to get on the mic just like his dad, but they're not letting him.
And again, and that's why I kind of come back to, maybe we just got really spoiled with, Triple H was great at everything. Cold Stone, Stone Cold, The Rock,
Shawn Michaels, Sting, and
what's his name? The Olympic wrestler guy. He was always hilarious. Kurt Angle was always great on the mic. The Undertaker didn't really have to get on the mic much because of his character, but they all did so well in everything, and that's where I'm just starting to think, like, okay, and maybe that's, again, I know you like the storylines a little bit more. I like kind of like the wrestling and the characters, but
like, I feel like if the storyline isn't there, then you have to rely on really great matches all the time. And I feel like we're getting a really great match 1 out of every 7, maybe 1 out of every 10, as compared to, like you said, and maybe it is we're spoiled because there's so much talent. Every match was really good. It felt like you didn't have a lot of dud matches that were like just to waste time until the next stars came out. And I feel like they do a lot more of that these days.
So I don't know all the solutions, but
you give me a week Royal Rumble, I'm gonna take another hiatus for a good minute, Pinky.
Well, I'll keep you up to date with what you need to know, but my daughter loves watching it, so we get together and we watch Raw. It's something that we can do together, and that's one of the few TV shows that she sits down and just watches, like, intently.
Nice.
And like, she's focused, she's in it, she's booing, she's cheering, she gets up and yeets. Like, I mean, nice. She just has a blast. She'll when Rhea comes in, she screams. Like, she's definitely invested and involved, and so, like, that's worth it to me.
For sure. So, absolutely. Merrick loves it, but I can't watch it with him because he doesn't understand that it's fake. And he started trying to wrestle with his mom, and that quickly ended that situation for now. Coming off the top rope onto mom's back quickly ruined that. That's
why you needed to have, like, another young boy for him to be able to, wrestle against, and then it would be fine.
Yeah. Well,
that's what my boys did. They wrestled each other.
Yeah, that's what my brother.
And then when Genevieve came along, they wrestled her because she was smaller than them, and we had a good old time.
This is kind of explaining to him, this is you and Dad get to watch it. We'll wrestle together, would be okay. But he was so excited, he wanted to show Mom, and Mom's sitting there, and he climbs up on the back of the couch and then just skydives. Didn't tell her anything, so Mom was not okay with that surprise when she learned where it came from. Gotta wait. And I mean, in fairness, Mom's reasoning was, what if he does that at school to some kid? And I was like, yeah, probably don't get my 3-year-old coming off the table onto one of the kids.
And if that kid throws them in an armbar, it's on Merrick. That's what happens.
I would not be upset, but I don't want that conference meeting. Kid would do somebody damage, I tell you what.
So yeah, I'm excited for the Rumble on Saturday. Unfortunately, I think CM Punk will win. I'm hoping that Brock Lesnar shows up. I'm hoping Brock Lesnar comes back. He is one guy.
They did put him back on the roster.
They did put him back on the roster. So hopefully that helps. and we get him back. I do think he's one of the few larger than life characters that, you know, I wouldn't say his mic skills are great, but he is still the beast incarnate and puts on a like it's a spectacle when he wrestles. You know, when he comes in and goes suplex city, bitch. Like, how can you not have fun at that, right?
Yeah.
No. All right. Any other sports topics you wanted to jump into before we go to the NFL?
No, I mean, there's plenty of NBA we could discuss, but we know that that's going to be a lot of our conversations going forward here shortly. So I will save it. We'll get caught up in the next couple of weeks after the Super Bowl. And then outside of that, we're 499 days away from the World Cup. The golf league with Tiger and Rory with the why did my head just go blank on the name? The golf simulator, basically the giant golf simulator. Super cool. The way they're doing it, I think, will hopefully evolve a little bit because it's not as exciting or entertaining as I was hoping it would be. But the idea and the concept is just badass. So I could see this honestly turning into a situation where it's a whole new league. And you don't see like PGA guys on it. It'd be probably more like guys that can't make the tour would do it and actually play full rounds. And I think that could be something really cool. Maybe I'm not liking the team dynamic that they're doing right now. Something's off. But the idea, the concept, the way they put it all together, the green, I don't know if you've seen this or not, Pinky, but it's got all these articulating sensors underneath it. So it can lay perfectly flat, or they can change it to make it look like anything they want, to mimic any green in the world. As far
I have
as
no idea what you're talking about.
Other people will. But it's super cool. So that'll be interesting to see how that moves forward. Other than that, there's not a whole lot going on. There's been some baseball signings and stuff, but
all right. Well, let's talk some NFL. We are going to do a little bit of a season review in a moment. I think we should, we'll definitely start with Championship Sunday. So we did have the Washington Commanders go into Philly and play the Philadelphia Eagles. And, man, I'm not a Commanders fan. I do like Philly, and I know a lot of people don't like Philly because Philly fans are pretty passionate.
That's a good way to say it.
and they can be a little obnoxious, right? Although, if we're being fair, a lot of fan bases can be obnoxious, right?
Yeah.
And you can find bad apples in any orchard, right? And so I know why people don't like the Eagles, but I love the fact that, again, as we've talked about a lot of times, when you see a team that's built from the inside out, and they've got one of the best O-lines and one of the best D-lines in football, as a football guy, they have a place in my heart. Because they've done it right. They've continued to do it right. Howie Roseman plays chess while other people are playing checkers. And they run the football. And they play good defense. And those are keys to winning football. So I like seeing that be rewarded, right? Love or hate their fans. Love or hate their coach. Love or hate Jalen Hurts, whatever. But when you break it down, they play football the way it's supposed to be played. And I like that, right? That's why I've always kind of rooted for the Eagles. I love Jason Kelsey when they won the Super Bowl. They beat the Dark Empire and the Patriots,
Sure.
Right? We all love that. And that was such a great game, and just the theatrics of it. So the fact that backup quarterback was playing, and there's something special about that. So from then on, I've rooted for Philly, right? I've said, Philly, once my team's knocked out, if Philly's there, I'm going to root for them because, again, I like the way they play the game.
All right.
And then there's the Commanders. And it's fun to watch Jaden Daniels. It's fun to watch that team. It's fun to watch Dan Quinn running around the sideline and cheering up his guys and overcoming, not having the best roster, right? Not having the best guys on defense, not having all the best guys on offense. But somehow they were still overcoming. Somehow they were still finding ways to win.
Have we had any discussion with ourselves regarding Dan Quinn and his ability as a head coach now?
Again, 1 year surpassed expectations, won a lot of close games, which we know the next year those could go the opposite direction, right?
For sure.
So I think we still got to wait. But I would say that maybe there is more to be said. Now, again, he also has at least what we would say is a decent offensive coordinator at the moment, too. Right? And Cliff
He did last time, too.
That's right. And he did last time. He had Kyle Shanahan. When Kyle Shanahan left, what happened?
A lot of roster turnover, too. The GM didn't do him any favors there those last couple of years after the Super Bowl.
Again, those could be, things. And again, he's got a good GM right now. Adam Peters started in Denver, went out to San Francisco, learned from John Lynch, comes over to the Commanders, right? I would say he's learned some things. I would say that they're, good GM out there in San Francisco. So I was just rooting for both teams to play a good game and let the best team win. And instead, what we got is Philly just running all over the Commanders.
Yes, but I think in the grand scheme of things, you still got a really good game. You just saw the disparity between the Eagles, who were a Super Bowl favorite before the season started, and Washington, who was projected to miss the playoffs before the season started. And I think that game just showed the true disparity between the talent level on each team. Now,
I think that's
Washington
a
turned it
down
over,
game.
4 times?
If the Commanders don't fumble it 4 times, it's a 7-point game in my opinion. 7 to 10.
Very well could be that close.
I still think Philly wins. I think it's a 7 to 10 points, closer game. But yeah, when you have fumbleitis and you keep handing the ball to Philly on short fields, they're going to make you pay. And they did.
Yeah. You just can't do that. You just can't, especially with a team that wants to run the ball and control the clock. And then instead it turns into 70-yard bombs from deep.
And two of the fumbles were literally guys fighting for extra yards. Eckler getting up off of his, he was already on his knees.
He
gets up.
Situations, right? They're just, yeah.
Me and a guy at work were talking about it. In the regular season, maybe you get up and fight for extra yards. But when you're in the playoffs, when you're playing the best of the best, get your couple yards and go to the next down. Because it's every time you get up and you try to make more plays, there's somebody running behind you you can't see that's coming in ready to punch that ball out. And guys are getting so good at it. That punch and that rip, that's what defenders have to do nowadays because, again, they can't hit you.
Tillman.
Yeah. Well, but in today's NFL, when you can't hit anybody.
I know.
Like, that's the perfect way to change the game up is to get turnovers by basically punching at the ball. Getting it out. That's the way you change the game. And that's really what happened. I still think it's a close game. I think the Commanders keep it close throughout. Back and forth. Jaden was doing some stuff. He was putting in work. And then those turnovers just happened and created that avalanche. And Philly got rolling. And we saw history.
I mean, if we're being honest, I feel like the Avalanche started after the first possession. You have a great drive. You come away with only a field goal. Philly gets the ball. Touchdown.
One play.
That right there kind of set the tone for the game, unfortunately. And again, Washington and their fans finally have something to be hopeful for, which is awesome. And if they play this offseason right and the draft, they very easily could be one of the favorites in the NFC next year.
We're going to talk about that in a little bit. So, so the game was entertaining, even though it was a blowout. I think it does show that they're on the right path, like you said. They're building in the right way. And they just, unfortunately, sometimes when you run into a better team, shit like that happens, right?
Yeah, that's exactly right.
Now, Saquon.
Yeah, let's discuss that for a minute.
Saquon, I'm going to say this, and I still think when you look at the best running back seasons of all time, even our boy TD is on that list. If Saquon has a good game in the Super Bowl and wins that game, he will have the greatest season for a running back ever.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I think there's some other ones that are going to get lost in.
He's 30. He's 30 yards behind Terrell Davis's record right now.
I get it. I get all of that. I remember a year Todd Gurley looked like he was going to be the greatest of all time, but his team didn't make the playoffs. So he didn't have an opportunity to continue. So I think some of these seasons are going to get lost because they just didn't play on good teams. And so it doesn't quite get the accolades maybe it should. And I'm not trying to take away anything from what Saquon's doing. So don't take it that way. What Saquon's doing will be the greatest season in the history of NFL football as far as running backs are concerned, if he finishes it out the way he started it. I'm just saying, I think I've heard this before. I've seen quite a few things going around about it right now. And I just think there are some seasons out there that people are just not giving credence to.
So,
and some of it's just because their team didn't even make the playoffs.
And again, that comes back to the totality of it, right? The totality of you did everything you could do and still your team didn't make the playoffs. Or like LaDainian Tomlinson, he has the touchdown record.
Yep.
And then he can't play in the playoffs. He got hurt and then he can't play. So we don't really know what could have been had he really been able to play throughout the playoffs and do something, right? And that happened every time. Every time.
Imagine if CMC was on the team the whole season. You know, not just getting traded halfway through.
You could put CMC's season last year.
You could. Last year was a really good season too.
He was 1,000. So I would say he was the MVP last season.
We've talked about that.
I still say Saquon Barkley, in my opinion, is the MVP. But people, again, it's a quarterback award at this point. I would still make the argument. I
understand why you say that. I don't have him there because I think you can take Saquon off the Eagles, and I still see how they could make the Super Bowl. You take Josh Allen or Lamar Jackson, whoever you picked, off of their teams, they are not getting in the playoffs. So there's differences there for me that tilt the scale a little bit to the other side. But I do understand where you're coming from, and I wouldn't be mad if that was your pick.
For me, when you have running backs or wide receivers, like the year Cooper Kupp had the Triple Crown.
Good year.
Mahomes won the MVP.
Right.
Mahomes' numbers weren't amazing.
Well, you want to talk about wide receiver? Nobody's even talking about what Jamar Chase did this year, which was absurd.
Now, his Triple Crown year is not as good as Cooper Kupp's Triple Crown year.
It's still an absurd year.
Absolutely. And again, and he'll probably lose Offensive Player of the Year to Burrow or Saquon. Probably Saquon. Because Saquon's in the MVP, but he's not going to win that. So he'll probably get Offensive Player. But Saquon's having a great season. I love Saquon. I love his smile. I love his attitude. I still remember him getting drafted out of Penn State and then doing like workout videos where he's pulling a car up a hill, like putting in the work. And when he went to the Giants, I was so sad because I just the Giants were so bad and they didn't build an O-line. And we talked about it years ago. When you draft a running back at 2, it's a luxury to do that. If the rest of your team's not good around him, he ain't going to do anything. Saquon still had a great rookie year.
With no offensive line.
But then from there on, again, he earned every yard he ever got.
And that's what's blowing my mind about Giants fans right now, pulling a Michigan. And the way they're talking about Saquon right now, like, well, Sheen offered him 13 and he accepted 13.5. Like, he didn't really want to come back. He is a traitor and he didn't want to. No. This is all on the organization and the GM. Any other discussion, I'm not listening to. I'm not going to hear. It's all bullshit. That's just you as a fan trying to support your team and completely ignoring the facts. They messed up. And they messed up real bad.
No, but
First
they'd
of all,
already put.
you drafted a running back when you shouldn't have. Then you drafted a quarterback you probably shouldn't have. But that quarterback, I'll say it, I think he has potential. But he's been ruined at this point based on what they did. You had those two guys, and then what did you draft after that? You didn't get him an O-line. You didn't get him outside weapons. So what do you expect to happen?
So
almost anybody drafted into that situation was going to look bad and fail. Saquon somehow didn't, and you decided that's the guy you're going to give up on.
Well, what's the utmost way? I understand what they did, but when you tell a guy we're going to let you test the market, we'd appreciate it if you give us a call and let us know. He tests the market. He gets what his fair market value is. He comes to them and they say, no, we're not going to do that. What do you expect?
Right. I mean, even I said I would have re-signed Daniel Jones, but not at the number that they did. They way overpaid for Daniel Jones. Then they try to pull the Jerry Jones excuse. Well, we can't afford both, so we're going to let you walk. Like, what? If you're a Giants fan and you're defending in any way the organization over Saquon, you are foolish.
I'm concerned as we talk more about the draft. If they get Shador will not be successful in the NFL.
So probably what you're saying is true.
Because they can't protect him.
I will say the silver lining in there is the fact that Shador didn't play behind an offensive line at Colorado. So he's already used to not having that in front of him.
But what did he do this season though? What did he do? He had a lot of bad habits.
Oh goodness, I'm kidding, man. It would ruin you in the NFL. There is no quarterback in the history of the game that could play behind that Giants offensive line and have a good career. There's just not. Plain and simple. So, yeah, we'll talk about that more. But I've just seen a lot of that on social media with Saquon. And the reason I say they're pulling the Michigan is because all those Michigan fans, after Ohio State won, they're all like, well, it doesn't count because you didn't beat us. What kind of nonsense are we creating in our heads to make us feel better about the situation? The more you lie to yourself, the worse it gets for you long term, because when you do eventually have to come back to reality, you have to face way more shit. If you just admit the truth now, you can be done with it and move on.
And again, if you offered Saquon close to the same amount of money, and he has to review the situation of I can be running behind the best O-line in football or the worst O-line in football for almost the same money.
If you're in the Giants organization or you're a Giants fan, if you support that organization in any way and you go, we offered him the same contract and he chose Philadelphia. Yeah, no shit, I would too. What are we talking about here? If you wanted him to stay, you knew you had a bad situation. You paid him a little bit more to keep him. You don't say, well, we matched the offer.
And I know it's not quite the same, but he did play at Penn State. He did play in Pennsylvania. So there's ties there, right? So, like, it made sense for him to do that. And cheers to Saquon.
He went to a division rival. He went somewhere that knew what they were doing and could win.
And we all know the teams don't have loyalty to you. Go get your money. Especially at a running back. Like, at any position at all, to hate a guy for getting his money, don't hate running backs because he should be making like $25 million based on his performance.
I'm going to tell you right now, that running back market ain't going to be pushed down any longer. After what Saquon, Henry, and Jacobs did this year, you will pay for a stud from now on. Because if you truly believe you're a contender
in there,
you are going to pay for that. Absolutely, you will now.
It'll still be at a discount, but it's not going to be like you're not lowballing a dude for $8 million.
Exactly.
All right. So Philly moves on. Congrats, Philly. Philly fans. Fly, Eagles, fly. Their third Super Bowl since 17. So what's that? 8 years?
That's pretty good. Yeah, it's pretty good. Pretty good. Last thing, last thing I do want to say about Philly before we move on. I think they proved to everybody. The other thing I think they proved is they can beat you any way they want to. If you think Jalen Hurts in that passing game can't be dangerous, you're making a mistake. If you think you're just going to load up the box and stop the run, and you're going to be able to beat Philadelphia by forcing Jalen Hurts to throw the ball, Smith, Goddard, and A.J. Brown will make you pay. You have to be able to play a full defensive game. If you want to shut down the run and take your chances, that might be your best chance to look at winning. But I still believe that part of Philadelphia's offense, Jalen Hurts in that pass game, also proved in that game that if they want to, they can throw the ball still. So any doubt that people had during the season talking about how that pass game wasn't there, I know people were talking about they struggled a little bit this season, and even I've said Jalen Hurts doesn't look as good throwing the ball. But I think they showed everybody Sunday that is not an issue if they don't, if they can't run the ball, they'll be just fine.
Well, but when you do run the ball well, and a team has to worry about you running the ball, and then you can play action.
Oh, absolutely. It's a huge advantage.
On top of that, you run the football and get to 3rd and 1, 4th and 1, and you tush push.
Yeah.
You're almost unstoppable. It's tough to deal with.
Yep. So. Absolutely.
All right. Chiefs, Bills. And I think there's a couple topics that we'll need to talk about, but let's just try to stay in the game to start with before we branch into these other topics.
All right, here's my takeaway from the game on a high-level, big-picture kind of thing, Pinky. When Buffalo played Baltimore, I had said I think Baltimore played a better game, but Buffalo didn't make any mistakes, and they knew exactly what they needed to do to win, and they did it. This weekend against Kansas City, they were not the better team. And they did make mistakes that put them in a position to where the game was a coin toss. And they just couldn't do that. I talked about it the week before. You talked about it the week before. They couldn't be in a position where the game was a coin toss. And they didn't play a clean game to the point where they had the ball with the lead rather than being down, kind of thing. And you're going to be in a coin toss. We said it's not a good spot for them to be in.
You know what's so funny?
They had 4 fumbles, Pinky, and they were lucky enough to gain all 4. They didn't lose 1, but they still put the ball on the ground 4 times. You know what I mean? Like, you fumble it 4 times and you get it back all 4 times. A lot of times you're thinking, oh, that's really lucky. It's our day. But then you see these other little things that just didn't go their way. The play call at the end where Spags blitzed and Buffalo was not ready for that. How do you not have a hot read there in that situation?
They did. What's crazy? If you watch that play, it's really crazy. And I watched it multiple times just to make sure that I saw it right. They run Shakir back behind Allen. Again, they're trying to see if coverage goes with him, right? As he runs, so he runs behind Allen, and then he comes back down the other way, right? They snap the ball. Shakir is in the flat, wide open.
Right.
Josh floats to the right, and then because of the blitz, he has to retreat. Had he and he looks for just a second. If he just turns and throws Shakir the ball, it's 20 yards without a question.
I don't know about that, man. That blitz came so hot and fast.
Dude, he grabs the ball and it takes him seconds to get to the right.
Yeah,
and he's drifting back. All he had to not even drifting.
Dude.
Yes, watch it in slow-mo. If you don't even drift, if he literally
had to drift, Pinky. The first thing he saw, he didn't even get to his first read. The first thing he saw was that corner coming right through the line, wide open.
But he ran to the right. I'm telling you, if he just turns, he catches the ball, turns, it's a first down.
Yeah.
Now again, I'm at the point of why did you even get to 4th and 5?
On 4th down, you're gonna make your first read a throw to the flat, 5-6 yards behind the line of scrimmage.
He's wide open.
But that's never gonna be your first read when you need 2 yards. That's what I'm saying. It was a bad play design. You should have had hot reads that get you your first down. Your first reads should have been hot reads for a blitz to get you a first down. That should have been the play call. The play call that they did do, though, looked like they sent 3 guys 10 yards plus and then Shakir to the flat. That's not a good play call on 4th and 2, especially when you know
4th and 5.
Other defensive coordinator likes to bring some heat and pressure in key moments. Again, Buffalo got failed by their coaching.
Right. No, and
decision making cost Buffalo this game again.
And again, at some point in the game, Buffalo runs the ball down KC's throat, scores a touchdown. The next drive, they start throwing the ball again.
Yep.
Why? Why does Sean McDermott and Joe Brady, now Joe Brady's not always been the OC, but why do they consistently, at some point in the game, forget what they're good at and say, Josh Allen, go win it for us?
I don't know, man.
Because that's what I see. I see them telling him to play hero ball, which works sometimes.
It doesn't work all the time. There is zero reason, and I think Dalton Kincaid's really talented. But I see nothing on that play where he should not have caught that ball. He got back in plenty of time. His body was in position. His hands were in position. Everything about that says it should have been a catch. An amazing throw by Josh Allen. Got away from the blitz. Chucked it 20 yards downfield. Dart to his guy. Couldn't catch the ball. It's the same thing that happened with Baltimore the week before. Mark Andrews catches that 2-point conversion. Baltimore's got the momentum. Everything could be different. There's so many things within this game that I look at it and I go, damn, Buffalo had an opportunity right there to steal the momentum and smash on the gas, and they just couldn't.
And the one thing that I saw throughout the game is once Buffalo's corner got hurt, that 7-yard comeback was wide open every time. And Casey would say, and I'll say, like, when I watched this game, I thought this was Mahomes' best game of the season. He was pinpoint. He was accurate. He hit the right guy. And every time, it wasn't 15-yarder, 20-yarders. It was 6-7 yards moved down the field.
Death by 1,000 cuts kind of thing, right?
It was 3rd and 2. Mahomes runs to the outside, gets the first down. He just did what he had to do to move the football at all times. He didn't take those risks. He didn't make any bad decisions. And that's when I was watching this game. And I know we put out a TikTok video beforehand of as Mahomes looks a little off. And when I watched Mahomes all season, there were moments where I just thought something's off.
Yeah.
And maybe it's the wide receivers suck. There was just something not right. And sometimes he'd make bad throws. And now his protection hasn't been great at times as well.
O-line was a big issue for them this year. And that was one of the saving graces in the last couple of years. So, yeah.
So there were some things that made it not look right. But when they needed it, he played his best game. That comes back to the greatness of Mahomes. And
And the coaching from Andy Reid and his staff.
Well, which is always fantastic.
And you talked about it. You put a video out about it, how you believe that one of the issues for Buffalo was going to be the fact that they had an inferior coaching staff. And you don't just believe it's Andy Reid McDermott. You believe it's Andy Reid McDermott. Like, you believe there's a big gap there.
There's a gigantic gap.
After Sunday, I tend to lean to agree with you.
Which, cheers. I'll take it. Andy Reid's one of the greatest coaches of all time. And it's I'm going to tell a little story.
Okay.
A little pinky story time. So, Andy and I have been friends for almost 20 years now. And we met working at Barclays Credit Card. And Barclays had come out from the East Coast and started a call center here. And we worked in their fraud department. And one of the guys that moved from New Jersey out here is actually part of my family now. It's funny. He's basically with Hannah's cousin. But he's a big Philly fan. Sixers, Phillies, Eagles, hardcore. Like, hardcore. He's not quite one of the worst obnoxious fans, but he's pretty close. Like, he's one of the guys that's taught his kid to flip off. If you're not an Eagles fan, flip him off, right?
Okay, perfect.
He's that guy.
All right. True Philadelphian.
He moves back. So he'd moved out here to Colorado. He moved back to the East Coast for a little bit. He moves back to Colorado. When he's moving back, I don't know why me and Andy met up with him, but we met up with him for some reason. We're just chatting, having a good time. And the Chiefs had just hired Andy Reid. And I can remember it vividly. He goes, have a good time with Andy Reid. He's going to mess up XYZ. He's going to do these things that's going to drive you crazy. And I'm like, that could be one of the worst things I've ever heard in life. And I'm going to remind him about that next time I see him.
What's wild
I
is,
still remember it.
Like, I'm not quite old enough, and we didn't really have social media back then to know what Buffalo fans were truly feeling about Marv Levy. But I have a feeling they weren't mad about Marv Levy being their coach for 4 Super Bowls straight. I don't understand why Philly fans bash Andy Reid at times. He got you to 4 NFC championship games in a row. The ball didn't bounce your way. It's a funny ball. It does weird things. Things happen, and so be it. You did make 1 Super Bowl. It didn't go great. But, dude, like, to me, I would rather have a coach that's got me on the verge of a Super Bowl every year over, say, a Mike Tomlin who's just always getting 500 or better, but can't win playoff games now. And I love Mike Tomlin. You know I do.
Right.
I would take Mike Tomlin in a heartbeat. And so I'm just trying to show you how crazy it is to me that Philly fans were ready to see Andy Reid go. Like, what are you doing?
So, and here's one of the things that I've commented on and that I truly believe. I still don't think – I think Mahomes would be a good quarterback. He might still be an elite quarterback if he was coached by anybody else. But he is not on GOAT level without Andy Reid. Andy Reid unlocked things in his game that I don't know if other coaches could have done.
But let's be honest. That is always the story behind the greatest of all time. Give me one GOAT guy that didn't have a great head coach.
Peyton Manning?
I mean, by your standards, that would fit. I know a lot of people who think Tony Dungy is phenomenal.
I don't think Tony Dungy is that great.
I know you
don't. I think he's a leader of men. I do think that. He's a great guy, character guy, upstanding guy. I think he cares about his players a whole bunch. I just don't think he's a great coach myself. I would also say John Elway, for most of his career, did not have good coaches. You put John Elway with Bill Walsh.
Would he be considered a GOAT, though, if he didn't get his 2 rings with Shanahan?
I mean, that helps a lot.
You know, and
But
I think Shanahan's a great coach. I think
but you could
Shanahan
see-
is
you saw
insanely
what-
underrated in the all-time greatness of NFL coaches.
You saw what Elway did when he had a coach that could take advantage of all of his skills. Right. So coaching plays a big part of it, and that's the one thing I don't think coaches get as big a credit.
Nobody's talking about Marino as the GOAT. Everybody talks about Marino as being a really damn good quarterback, but nobody's talking about him in the GOAT conversation. He never had a great coach.
True guys that Don Shula is a pretty good coach, man. He had Don Shula for most of his career. He had Jimmy Johnson after that. He did. He had Don Shula and Jimmy Johnson. So
I was thinking Shula was only the first couple of years.
No, Shula was like until 96.
Shit. Well, it's funny because I'm listening to myself say that out loud, and I wish I could just delete all of it because Marino's definitely in the GOAT conversation. He's so fucking good. I mean,
again, I think that goes back to what
given me a couple of examples, but on the whole, when you're talking about the GOAT in any sport, usually there's a great coach or manager that was with them.
That is
usually the case.
So, that's a fact. But I also give, like, when I look at the Chiefs, and I like to say that some of my buddies call me a closeted Chiefs fan. Again, because I love Andy.
He's not, ladies and gentlemen. I assure you, he is not.
He's my brother, and so we talk about the Chiefs. I watch the Chiefs.
He's just a great dude who loves the people around him and will support you even if it makes him feel happy.
I will say, like, I don't think the extra guys, so Andy Reid, Chris Jones, Travis Kelce, I don't think they get enough credit for this dynasty because everybody's so much Mahomes.
I think
really fucking good.
Maybe the casual person. I don't think anybody who knows anything about sports, though, is actually thinking that. It is very much Andy Reid, Mahomes tied together. That everybody knows that defense is crazy, and Chris Jones is the leader of that. Like
everything, all the media focus, and again, he's the face of the NFL, so they focus on Mahomes. Those other guys don't get the credit they really deserve.
I mean, Pinky, that's what we're trying to do here. We're trying to change the narrative of sports media, right? Like that's what you and me want to do so badly. We want things to be respectful, have a take, based in facts, and we don't do clickbait. We don't sensationalize. We don't do clickbait. We want to talk about the actual things and give our true opinions and takes. We're not just saying shit to get people to watch us or follow us.
And we will be wrong from time to time.
And we'll admit it. Like, we'll come out and be like, we have a bad take. Sorry. So, yeah, there's some of that. But, I mean, I think anybody who truly knows anything about sports understands that Mahomes wouldn't be Mahomes without Andy Reid. The Chiefs wouldn't be where they are without that partnership.
I don't think he's GOAT level
neither
without
one of
Andy
those
Reid.
people in that partnership would be anything without that defense and Spagnuolo. So,
but
let's talk about the elephant in the room next, real quick. Let's get that out of the way.
I do like the fact that we agree. Buffalo had to they had to be up 10 points. They had to be beating this team. They could not let it be close because, and we differ on the definition of dominant, but if you let the game be close, it's been proven the Chiefs are going to find a way to win. It's what they do. Now,
yeah, it is. And to that point, we'll talk about a couple things here. Since week 17 of 2023, the Chiefs are 23-2, and they've only had one game scoring more than 30 points in that span. To take it a step further,
thank you, Spags.
Further with us talking about the Buffalo versus Kansas City. This is now 4 games that they've lost to Kansas City. This is not on Josh Allen, and it's not even necessarily on Patrick Mahomes for the win. And this is why I say that. In their head-to-head in playoffs, it's a 4-0 record for Patrick Mahomes. Patrick Mahomes has thrown 12 touchdowns. I'm sorry, he has 12 total touchdowns, passing and rushing. Josh Allen has 11. Patrick Mahomes has thrown for 291 yards per game. Josh Allen has thrown for 260. They're almost identical numbers. What these two quarterbacks have done.
I think Josh has got like one interception against the Chiefs in those 4 games.
Something in there, yeah. But for the most part, you can remove the quarterbacks because they have canceled each other out. So now you're looking at defenses. We already knew Buffalo was trying to catch up to the Chiefs in defense. The Chiefs had a top 5 defense. They had some injuries, weren't quite sure how they were going to perform in the playoffs, things of that nature. They were able to do what they needed to do. The Bills' defense isn't bad, but it's not quite elite, if you will. Von Miller is no longer the Von Miller who's going to change a game on his own kind of thing, like a Chris Jones could. So that gives the edge to Kansas City a little bit in that regard. But I think what was proven Sunday, and you've talked about this a lot, and I didn't always agree. I thought McDermott was a really good coach who had an opportunity, I said, this weekend to change that narrative, and he didn't. He made some decisions. His team made some things not happen during the game that they lost. And when you go back and look at the game and you look at some of those decisions here and there, you go, well, yeah, coaching did play a role in this. And Andy Reid is able to push all the right buttons at the right time. He just knows what to do. And that's no knock on McDermott. By no means am I trying to say he's not a good coach. I still think he's a really good coach. But Andy Reid is a great coach. Andy Reid might be potentially, and with a win in the Super Bowl, I think would very much legitimately become in the conversation of the greatest coach in NFL history. Bill Belichick didn't up and leave a franchise and start all over. Shula didn't up and leave a franchise and start all over.
He did. He did. He went from Cleveland to the Patriots.
He was fired. Let me take that back.
Andy Reid was fired.
Andy Reid was successful though in Philadelphia.
Look,
Bill,
you're saying the
I
right
actually
stuff.
think Bill would have been eventually successful in Cleveland, but he wasn't given the opportunity to.
There are 4 guys in the conversation for me. There's Lombardi.
I was wrong. Shula went from Indy to Miami, so that didn't work either. But...
There's Lombardi.
Yep.
There's Belichick.
Yep.
There's Reid. And I still think, in my heart of hearts, based on most of the offenses in this league now are running these concepts, Bill Walsh.
I don't hate those 4 if you want to pick those.
If you look at Bill Walsh, the Sean McVays, the Shanahan, like everybody is under Bill Walsh's tree. They're all roots from that tree.
Right. Everybody wants to talk about the Shanahan tree, but that Shanahan tree is even deeper. It's really the Bill Walsh tree. You're absolutely right. It's all based off that West Coast offense.
I still think Bill Walsh is one of the greatest coaches of all time. Now, if you want to say it's Belichick, cool. If you want to say it's Reid, it's cool. You want to say Walsh, you want to say Lombardi, cool. Those guys all put a stamp on the game that puts them in that conversation. And I don't think there's a wrong choice there. If Walsh is your guy, if Reid's your guy, if Belichick's your guy, if Lombardi's your guy, there's an argument for all of them. They're all amazing. Win or lose the Super Bowl, Reid is already there. He went to a Super Bowl with Philly. He went to multiple championship games with Philly. He came in. He immediately made Kansas City a good team with Alex Smith. Once he got a quarterback that he could unlock and do special things with, they've just been on a run like we've never seen. Before we talk about that elephant, because we still haven't talked about that yet, I did want to say I hear a lot of people talking about the Chiefs winning the Super Bowl this year, getting the three-peat, because they want to remove what the Patriots have done. I find that just idiotic. I don't think that removes anything the Patriots done. The Patriots didn't three-peat, but they won 3 Super Bowls in 4 years at one point in their dynasty. And then they had a second dynasty where they won 3 Super Bowls in like 4 or 5 years again.
It gives the
over
Chiefs
20-year
dynasty,
period.
Yeah, it gives the Chiefs dynasty the ability to say they've done something nobody else has done. But it's still that win alone would not make them the greatest dynasty of all time. Still, the Patriots have 6. If you're not going to go above 6, then you don't beat that dynasty. Like, that just is what it is, whether you like it or not.
And again,
yes,
it's
you
6
did something that dynasty didn't do, but that dynasty still has done more than you've done.
And it's 6 in a 17-year period, right? So it doesn't wipe
Give or
away
take
that
somewhere in
accomplishment.
there, yeah.
I mean,
One every 3 years, basically.
It's 2001 to 2018 when they beat the Rams.
Yeah.
Or 19, one of the two. 18,
right
I think.
in there,
yeah, 18. So that's a 17-year period that they won 6 Super Bowls. How does somebody winning 3 in a row just erase that? It doesn't.
Yeah, it's
so now they've won 4. If they win this one, they'll win 4 in 6 years. That's pretty awesome. And that definitely, again, continues to build the case for one of the greatest dynasties, if not the greatest dynasty, right?
That's a good stepping stone to getting you to the greatest dynasty of all time. But you still have to finish the stairs.
Right. We're getting there. So let's talk about that elephant in the room, shall we?
I sent this in the group chat, I believe, as soon as it happened. This is not. Was it a bad call? No. Was it an incorrect call? Yes. If Buffalo has the 1 seed and they're playing at home instead of in Kansas City, they get that call. To me, this is very much a home field bias call that could go either way, and it went the home field team's way.
You know what I have a problem with? I don't really. I understand because it's still there's still humans involved, and on that 4th down, you've got one ref who's literally saying it's a first down, and you've got another ref that's saying it's short. And I don't understand how they both come down the line and one gets to make the call and the other. Like, how do we accept who makes that call, right? Because to me, the line judge who called it a first down has a better view because he can see the ball. Whereas in the other judge that's saying it's short, there's people in the way. He can't see the ball, right?
Yeah, I don't.
Now, what I have a problem with is the play before that. Dalton Kincaid got the first down.
He
got marked short. He got the first down. So then this isn't even we're not even talking about it, right? He got the first down. He's not touched. So here's the biggest thing I hate. They marked him short because of where his knee was, but he had not been touched yet. When he gets touched, the ball's across the line.
And Pinky, I've been on my soapbox about this a lot, and it just is what it is. And I've said it. At this point, I believe the NFL's front office thrives seeing these things happen because of the controversy it creates, which creates buzz and viewership and things
People
of that
talking
nature,
about it.
to where they're not going to do these simple, easy little fixes that they could do to get a majority of these calls eliminated from the game. There is
really
technology available that the NFL could implement like that.
So
and we would not be talking about this today, and they refuse to do it.
I listened to a podcast. It's 2 guys, Denver Sports Radio, Cecil Lammy and Andrew Mason. I love them. They do a great job. They're guys. They're men of the people. Why are we continually making something subjective when it's objective?
Yes, that's what I'm.
Why do we have
baseball all the time? Why baseball is an objective? Every rule in baseball is objective. There is no gray area, and they don't want to do it. The NFL has a lot of gray area, but there are things that they could eliminate from the gray area that they choose not to do.
Why do we have, 40 and 50-year-old dudes with chains on the side of the field going up and down? And I will say, I will give refs a lot of credit. A lot of times in that split second, the refs make a lot of good calls.
Dude, more
on
often
short,
than not, they're right.
Like
Which
they're
is crazy.
when like a lot of times when they're down near the end zone and you're like, oh, he got in, and you look and you're like, oh damn, they called him short, and they see the replay and you're like, oh yeah, his forearm touch first. You're like, how'd they see that?
Yeah.
Like I'm thinking I'm in 4K, big TV. I can't see it until you replay it in slow-mo, and they saw it like that. But then in these situations, I'm like, it's like you said, we've got the technology. It's not that hard. Put a sensor in both sides of the ball, on both and on the opposite sides of the ball as well. You put the sensors on the field. Again, I know it might cost a little bit, but I guarantee you, the Bills will be more than happy to pay for that now, right?
It
happens so often. It just happens so often. Goal at the goal line, fourth downs.
It's not even
There's
that.
so
Like,
many
yes,
questionable calls.
you could easily have a chip in the ball and eliminate this, and the chip, because of technology and the way it is, it would have no effect on the ability to throw the ball, hold it, carry anything else. You wouldn't even know it was in there. But it's beyond that. It's as simple as we can see on replay that the call was wrong, but it wasn't a reviewable play. So we're just going to move on from it. Like,
but they did review. I mean, they did review that play and still called it the same way.
You can very easily in New York see that a call was missed, whether it was reviewable or not. You could instantly call the ref on the field and say, "Hey, let's go ahead and change that one real quick. Move it back." 30 seconds later, right call, game moves on, no issues. There is zero reason for the NFL to have these issues other than they actually want them.
What's crazy?
And this is not on the refs. I'm not going to listen to any of this. The refs, the NFL, they're pulling for KC. It's all a conspiracy. I'm not listening to that shit.
So we'll talk about that in a moment. The one thing about it is throughout the season, the replay assist came in and did a great job in a lot of cases. And I was just flabbergasted when replay assist can help you get the play right without having someone challenge. And then when you have plays challenged and everybody in the stadium can see the replay, everybody at home's got it in slow-mo, and we can see what happened, and somehow they still get the call wrong. That I can't understand.
It's unacceptable. Now, I will say this. And I am sure I am probably the only one outside of Kansas City Chiefs fans that's going to say this out loud. And I don't care. I think, just like in the court of law, there was enough reasonable doubt that Josh Allen was over the line, but the ball was not, for that call to go the way it was. Because I personally, from every replay I saw, could not find a clear view of the ball over the line. I could find plenty of pictures where Josh Allen and where I believe the ball to be was over the line. But because I could not actually see the ball over the line, I feel like there's enough reasonable doubt for the play and call to be the way it was. Do I think it was the right call? No. Do I think it was an egregious call? No.
Yeah, I think it's a lot closer than people want to admit. And that probably is because there have been a lot of different calls that have gone Casey's way, that when you add this on top of it, it just continues to build that narrative, right? And I wanted to talk about this. Do you think that the NFL public, and again, this happened some with the Patriots as well, right? The Patriots get calls, they get this, they get all that because they're winning, right? And it's that we're kind of jealous, right? That the Chiefs are always winning. But it continues to build the narrative that the game is rigged. Do you think that is? I don't think the game is rigged, but I do see that they happen to get questionable calls in big moments, which leads more to people saying it's rigged. And would you say that that's because we have Chiefs fatigue?
Yeah.
Over the last couple of years, they keep winning. Their head coach is in commercials. Patrick Mahomes in every commercial possible. Kelsey's on commercials, TV shows, podcasts. He's everywhere. He's got Swifty with him, right?
Let's be honest. Let's be honest. In the grand scheme of the history of sports, as far as what I believe to be is a good historical perspective, because I love everything so much and I've done my own research, maybe outside of Babe Ruth, because there's just not enough for me to go back and really review there. Outside of Michael Jordan, there has never been a superstar that was universally loved. The only people I ever knew to root against Michael Jordan was the fan of the team he was playing. And even they had a hard time rooting against Michael Jordan. That's the only example of that in the history of sport. Every other dynastic run that a team has ever made that I can think of has caught hate.
Now, I won't say he was never on a dynastic run, but the other superstar that I feel like most of the country didn't hate him, actually enjoyed him, was Peyton Manning.
That was a name I had thought about throwing out there.
If he was playing your team, he was going to wax your team. It happened. But then the next week when he wasn't playing your team, you were happy to watch him play.
You might be right. There might be some truth to that. But
he wasn't on
a dynastic run with him to ever truly find out.
He wasn't winning title after title after title after title.
Point. That's why I wouldn't bring him up, because he never got to this level for us to truly find out if that would have been true.
But he was.
You're right. He was, for the most part, universally loved. Had he ever gone on a dynastic run, would have that continued? Maybe. But outside of Jordan, I believe that's the only person in the history of sports that has ever been universally loved and just won all the time. Everybody else, it's like basically only your team loves them, and everybody else outside of that hates it because of it. They might respect it, but they're going to be angry about it. I say all that to say yes to your answer. I think there's Chiefs fatigue. But I think it's I don't want to quite say unjust, but I do think some of it is unjust fatigue.
Now, I did see a stat today that continues to build on that narrative. I had not seen this before. Since 2019, and this is a lot of playoff games for the Chiefs. A lot of playoff games. Since 2019, they have 0 holding calls in the playoffs.
And there's a lot of things like that you can go and find numbers for that
makes no sense
to some of this.
That makes no sense at all. Like
it's a wild stat. I won't disagree with you. It is a wild stat. And that's why some of these conspiracies for me I'll listen to. But if we're talking this year specifically, you look at the numbers, none of the numbers support this fan hatred and this ref conspiracy call. Yes, the Chiefs tend to get calls in key moments. That I will listen to because it's true. But like even the Houston game last week, by the letter of the law, those were penalties. You can't come up to the head and neck area of the quarterback. You can't do those things.
But they did.
Wait, just hear me out. This is where I'm going with this. When you win a lot, and not just win, but you are also putting up numbers to make you one of the best in the game, throughout sports history, it is proven that winners and greats get calls more often than not. They're going to get the benefit of the doubt because of what they've accomplished and what they've done in the game. So because of that, and because of what Mahomes has proven to do over and over again, because of who Andy Reid is, because of what the Chiefs have been able to do, and they just find ways to win, in those key moments, when it's a coin flip call, when it's controversial, I believe greats should get those calls because they've earned that right. If that's wrong, it's wrong. But it's also kind of human nature, isn't it? If you obviously see somebody who's better than the other person, aren't you going to kind of lean towards, well, the person who's better probably did get hacked if they missed the shot that badly, kind of thing? You know what I mean? Like, they didn't just airball it. They probably did get touched, or they probably did tip the ball. They didn't just airball it, because that's not something I see them do. So I think there's a lot of factors that play into this. Could there be a little bit of favoritism? Yeah, I'm not going to deny that. I see it with my own eyes too. Do the numbers back up that the refs are favoring the Chiefs? Nope, they definitely don't.
In the playoffs, it does.
But do the numbers say that the Chiefs might get calls in opportune times? Yes, that I will listen to. But I think they've earned it, and I think it's fair.
There's only one playoff game since 2019 that the opponent, or that the Chiefs have had more penalties than their opponent. It just happened to be the time they got waxed by the Tampa Bay Bucks. Every other game, at the end of the game, the other team had more penalties. Now, again, I will also come back to...
Wouldn't your example completely prove my theory correct then? Who was Patrick Mahomes playing? Tom Brady.
Yep.
Who's going to get the calls? Tom Brady. Well, like it or not, it's going to happen.
Well, I mean, at this point, they were getting waxed so bad anyways.
I'm just saying, though, like, doesn't that kind of, you know what I'm saying?
The penalties...
Like, it's not like he lost to Rex Grossman, okay? Like...
And in some cases, throughout the season, penalties, like, again, they matter throughout a game, but they normally don't decide the game. It is the penalties in the big moments that are questionable. I mean, I still go back to that Super Bowl with Philly. Like, that holding call was pretty questionable.
Sure, it was.
When they didn't call that all game, and you call it in that moment, like,
it's questionable. You're right, it is. But I will challenge anybody. Go back and watch all the great teams: NFL, NBA, NHL, whatever. I bet if you watch those teams that won, they got away with a lot of stuff. But there wasn't social media back then to put them on blast and all these fans to get angry and mad.
Oh, man. As soon as that game was over, rigged was trending. Dude. You had guys with, like, video breakdowns of, like, multiple plays. Like, it's
people
crazy.
Talking about Worthy didn't catch that ball and it hit the ground. And, like,
so,
I'm just, dude, I am an objective fan. Nobody in their right mind, nobody can call me a Chiefs fan. If you know me, nobody will say I'm a Chiefs fan. But if it's not my team, I am going to be, and even with my teams, I try to be, but I'll admit I'm not always. I'm going to be as objective as possible. And I'm going to tell you what I see with my own eyes, with my own truth. And I'm not trying to favor anybody. So, I just love the sport.
You know how I saw that play?
The hate for the Chiefs. I just don't see it.
You know how I saw that play? I saw that play questionable throughout the whole play. That however they called it on the field was what they were going to stay with.
Yep.
Because there was evidence that the Bills guy had it first. But then there was evidence that, again, Worthy has more control of it as they go to the ground. And then you've got the ball touches the ground, which is kind of part of it. But they ruled it a catch for Worthy. I don't see anything, like, egregious that changes it, right?
Exactly.
So and again, they're taught, even in replay, if you don't have anything that's clear cut, you stay with what's called on the field. And again, the Broncos got that benefit in the 2015 Super Bowl, right? Ted Ginn, that ball, it was called incomplete. You go through the replay and you're like, I don't know, he might have caught that.
Julian Edelman?
That looks close.
Julian Edelman's catch that arguably saved the game for the Patriots?
Oh, but that didn't touch the ground. He caught that, man.
I'm just saying, you could still look at that and go,
But there was evidence that ball never hit the ground.
I know. I'm just saying you could still.
I'm saying
there's so many situations
on the questionable ones for the Broncos. Ted Ginn caught that ball. You watch that replay multiple times. He caught that ball, but because they called it incomplete on the field, and you couldn't quite make that decision.
But again, the NFL puts themselves in this position, and at this point in time, I'm convinced they do it on purpose. Because there are very easy fixes to a lot of their situations. What is a catch? What is, replay? All these things that they could very easily take care of, and they choose
Absolutely. Absolutely. So it pains me to say it, but congrats again to the Chiefs. They won that game. At the end of the day, the Bills had a chance to go down and win that game. And when you play the Chiefs, wouldn't you say that every team would kill for the opportunity to say it's a tie? We're down 3 points, but we have the ball.
Not just that. Not just any team. The Bills specifically.
Right.
If you had to pick a team in the NFL that said, hey, you get the ball against the Chiefs, a chance to go to the Super Bowl, game tied or down by a possession, what would most people pick? They pick the Bills in that situation to finally redeem themselves, to go do it to the Chiefs, what the Chiefs have done to them 3 times in a row. They had their chance, just like you said, and they couldn't get it done.
They didn't take it. So at the end of the day, that's what happens. The Chiefs took it, and that's what they've done for years.
One last thing I'll say, and then I'll be good. On that controversial elephant in the room, was it a first down or not a first down? Did Josh Allen get there or not get there? That was arguably the worst play call they could have ran in that situation. Everybody and their mom that watches football knows if the Bills are short yardage, it's Josh Allen off the left off the left guard. Everybody knows that. And what did they decide to do to try and gain that yard against Kansas City? Let's go Josh Allen off left guard. Kansas City won't know what we're doing. Like, there are 1,000 other plays you could have called in that situation to give you a better chance, and you
those were such horrible play calls. They could not run the tush push against the Chiefs at all, which is also probably another reason why they won that game. Right? Those two 2-point conversions, those matter. Yep. Right? They didn't take the points. They didn't make the 2-point conversions. A lot of people aren't going to factor that in, but I had oh gosh, I think it was my wife. My wife literally mentioned that's going to come back to bite him.
What's the first thing I said when I said this is my overall take of the game, Pinky? Buffalo didn't do the things they did the week before to win the game. To just win the game. Kansas City did.
Now, to be fair, Baltimore turned the ball over a lot, which, again, gave Buffalo the advantage.
I'm just talking about the things you need to do to win the game. Shit, Baltimore could have walked out with a win in that game if they had done the things they needed to do, regardless of turnovers. Right? Derrick Henry catches that ball. Mark Andrews catches that ball. The turnovers don't even matter. Baltimore may still come out. So regardless of turnovers, they didn't do the things they needed to do to win the game. The little things that matter. Buffalo did. The details mattered. In this game, look, and it's crazy because it's not even that Buffalo didn't care about the details. I'm saying this like Buffalo blew the game. They didn't. They played a really good game. That's why it was the final score that it was. A one-possession game for an AFC championship game. It was a great game. But if you're talking grades, Kansas City gets an A+ for the little details. Buffalo gets a B+. And that matters. That difference matters. And for whatever reason, every time Buffalo plays Kansas City, that's what happens.
Hey,
A+, B+. There's just that little difference that causes them to lose the game.
Just like Al Pacino says, it's a game of inches. A couple things I want to talk about the season.
Okay, wait. For the people, if you're new to us, if you don't know, if you do know and you forgot, we're not talking Super Bowl right now.
Actually,
that comes next week, and we'll spend almost the show discussing the Super Bowl.
So I'm going to shorten it down just a moment because I think it actually one of the things we do need to talk about is the coaching carousel.
Yeah.
So I think Chicago and Ben Johnson. Big Johnson was probably the big fish out there, right? Like, we can get this guy. I'm still wondering if it'll work, right? Just because you're a good OC doesn't mean you'll be a great head coach, right? Hopefully, Ben Johnson works out. I think he did great.
Further, Pinky. And I know a lot of people are just going to call me a hater or I'm trying to give a hot take for this, but you know me well enough to know I don't do that. I'm not even convinced at this point that Ben Johnson's a great OC. I think he's a really good OC, but I am not convinced that he is a great OC because of the amount of talent that is on that offensive side of the ball that he had to work with. And I started thinking that towards the end of the season because of the amount of trick plays that he was running. And it concerned me to the point where I started having to rethink things a little bit. Do you think that? I know. I've heard it. I get it. They could do it because they wanted to. They're blowing people out. No. Things.
Do you think that was a guy getting full of himself?
A little bit. I do think it was a little bit of that.
Because, again, I'm a guy who thinks some guys get way too cute. I don't think football is rocket science. And when guys try to make it rocket science, that's when they mess up.
So, and I also remember hearing a lot of rumors, true or not, they were still floating around last year, that he did not interview well. Did not interview well at all. So those things start adding up to me, and I start going, okay, well, you're not the OC now. You're dealing with the whole team. You're the leader of men, not the leader of a quarterback. You're having to build everything around you rather than be insulated by everything around you.
I think
because Dan Campbell set him up in a perfect position, right? Dan Campbell set him up to succeed.
Well,
now he's got to do that on his own. I am not convinced.
OC, DC, you have a decent amount of the team that you're handling, but I'm right here. You can't see me, baby. When you're an OC or DC, yeah, you've got the offense, but then you also have quarterbacks coach, tight ends coach, wide receivers coach, running backs coach, O-line coach. You have a lot of guys helping you overall. When you're the head coach, you're the guy.
Yep.
And again, it doesn't mean that everybody underneath you is going to be as good as you, right? I'm optimistic, but again, at the end of the day, we've seen teams hire the wonder kid and it not work out.
Well, and I'll say this. I think he will be a good head coach. I do. I say all that, and then I will let you know. I do think he's a good – I think he'll be a good head coach. I said all that, though, because regardless if you're a good head coach or not, if you have some chinks in the armor and you don't have brilliant minds around you to cover up those chinks, it's going to hurt you real bad. And I believe Ryan Poles is a bad GM. I don't care what anybody says. I've given you my reasons. I will continue to stand on that platform. He has not, in my personal opinion, honestly, he has not made one good move that wasn't handed to him. Carolina Panthers handed him a steal.
Well, they were desperate.
It doesn't matter. Carolina handed him a steal. Anybody would have said yes to that deal.
Yeah,
anybody would have said yes to that deal.
Carolina was desperate.
The Sweat deal. Are you kidding me? Like, yeah, anybody would take that too. Like, that's a no-brainer. He didn't do anything miraculous. And when it was his opportunity to do something miraculous, he failed miserably, i.e. the offensive line, i.e. the head coach. So I do not think Ryan Poles is a good GM. I don't think he's going to do anybody any favors. And now Ben Johnson's walking into that situation. They still don't have an O-line. Now, you think Ryan Poles is going to go draft one? Okay, cool. Do you trust him to evaluate the talent enough to draft the right offensive lineman?
Do you think Ben? So I know most of us Broncos fans. I think we have a pretty good idea. Sean Payton is number one. George Payton's here.
Yeah.
And George Payton is kind of like the guy to tell like Sean, like, I don't know if that's a good idea, Sean. I don't know if that's a good idea, Sean, but it's still Sean's call. Right? Does Ben Johnson have any of that power?
Nope.
Right? Where's Ben Johnson?
And I think it's even worse in Chicago because I think the guy Warren, who is, I don't even remember his official title, but he basically runs the entire team. He's former Big Ten commissioner. I think he's actually pulling more strings than people realize. So the hate I might be giving polls might possibly, I believe it is him, but possibly I'll give him an out, might even be coming from above him, and it's not even his call. I think the Chicago organization from top to bottom is a giant mess. Yeah, Ryan Poles is in Chicago. What am I missing?
Wait, was that a comment or something? Oh, yeah. I can't see comments, so.
Yes, Ryan Poles is in Chicago. That's what we're talking about. Alex. Not sure if I said something that confused you, so I apologize. But yeah, the Chicago front office is a mess. So regardless of what the product on the field is, I think they're always going to have issues. I'm just not sure what to think about it. I think they've got plenty of talent. There's no reason for excuses going forward. That's for damn sure.
Patriots and Mike Vrabel. Mike Vrabel.
Let me caveat it real quick. I think everybody nailed their hires outside of Dallas. And that's not to say Dallas didn't necessarily maybe get a good coach. I just don't think Schottenheimer has shown anything for us to know one way or the other. And he definitely wasn't calling plays for Dallas. So who knows what he's really capable of? Jerry does. So maybe that's good. But I do think everybody nailed their hires. I like Vrabel to the Patriots. You know how I feel about bringing the Patriot way back and not just completely blowing it up and destroying it. So I think there's some issues there for me in bringing back a Patriot, but I don't think Vrabel is quite the Patriot way. And he's proven he's a really good head coach. If you give him a good GM and you don't take away all his talent like Tennessee did, he's going to win you games.
I think Vrabel's a good coach. I think Drake May is really good. I watched his games. I was really impressed. Drake May is going to be pretty awesome.
Yeah, I said I wouldn't have taken him as early as he did. I would have taken some other people over him in the draft. I wasn't convinced he was going to be good. I was very torn on him. I didn't know how to grade him. I just didn't quite. I was wrong. Dude looks like he can ball.
Dude, if that guy had talent, the Patriots would have been pretty good.
I think they have their number 2 wide receiver on the roster in Booty. I think Kayshon Booty is their solid number 2. If they can find a way to get a number 1, they could put some things together for Drake May.
So we'll talk about that in a sec. Jets got Aaron Glenn.
I think he did a great job as the DC in Detroit, especially with the fact that they were on like their 4th string for every single position, right? Like amazing. I just don't know. And again, I think everybody nailed their hires. I think they all hired really good people for the job. But I don't know if a defensive guy for the Jets in today's NFL with that roster and everything you're dealing with was the best choice. You just had that and it didn't work out.
What's the problem in New York?
Great defense that doesn't have an offense to back it up.
No. What's the problem in New York?
Oh, we're going, okay, the owner.
The owner. I don't think many head coaches. So it would take a head coach that has gravitas to come in and tell the owner, own the team. I'm going to help you run the team.
Well, not tell the owner. Tell the owner's 15-year-old son.
Right.
Because apparently that's who's calling the shot.
So I like Aaron Glenn as a person. I think he is a good defensive coordinator.
Former Jet first-round pick. I mean, you know.
It's a good story. I don't think this is going to end well.
Yeah, I think we're on the same page with that. And it has nothing to do with the coach or the team. It has everything to do with ownership and front office, right?
Because, again, if the front office and the owner doesn't make good decisions about the team, there's only so much he can do.
Right. And we'll talk more about it in the offseason, but just to throw that little carrot out there for the people so that they know we will talk about it later, they should bring Aaron Rodgers back. That dude was starting to ball towards the end of the season. I think his Achilles is finally starting to look good. He's starting to feel better. I think that is the right play for next year. And then you look at trying to find a quarterback to develop behind him. But I think they call me crazy.
Now,
I think they could easily be a Super Bowl contender next year if you bring back Rodgers and you have the right pieces again.
I think we would agree this is not the year to go shopping for a quarterback. Right? Bring Rodgers back. He likes New York. Bring Devontae back. Run it back. Now you've got a defensive coordinator. You had a defensive coordinator previously. Somehow Saleh did not, this season, before he got fired, was not getting the most out of this defense for some reason.
Something was off to start the season, and that was why I said he needed to go. It was not that I think he's a bad coach. I don't think he is. I think he's actually a good head coach. To deal with all the stuff he did in New York and still have them competitive, I think says a lot about his abilities as a head coach. He just was in a terrible situation. And then whether it was he lost Aaron Rodgers because of how he handled it to begin with, or he lost somebody on the defensive side, something got lost in translation to the point where the team just didn't really feel him anymore, or something was off. And they had to make a change because of it. He wasn't going to be around this next year.
Right.
Like, it just... And he got to go back to San Francisco and be the DC again. Talk about a grab for San Francisco and Shanahan. Like,
absolutely. I'm excited for that.
I don't know. It's going to be interesting to see what the Jets do because they got to find an OC now. They got to get a quarterback. If you bring Rodgers back, does he follow whoever the OC's offense is? Do they go with Rodgers' offense? Which, like it or not, that offense started to look a lot better, especially with Aaron Rodgers and the receivers towards the end of the season. And that, we should have known better. We should have anticipated that. He was coming off a torn Achilles at 40 years old. For us to think he was going to come out and ball, that's on us. That was foolish. We should have known better. Okay?
Well, I also had this thought that the defense would do a better job.
We both did. And for whatever reason, they didn't show up.
Of helping. I thought this was going to be a defensive team that would help give Rodgers the ball more to make some of those plays, and it didn't happen.
We'll see what happens.
The craziest story of this head coaching carousel.
Cohen?
Jacksonville.
What? Okay, let's start from, was it today or yesterday going backwards? Dude, how do you not know how to say Duval correctly? What are we doing? Duval. What are we doing? What?
Look,
How is that what comes out? Oh, man.
Look.
And what's crazy?
Damn
to me, OC. If you watch what he did with Tampa this year, damn good OC.
To me, this still starts at the top.
Yeah.
When you have an owner that's doing an end-of-season press conference with his GM, and he literally says in the press conference that he will let his GM go if the right coach won't accept him. What? If that is even a thing, you don't have the right GM. That's where, to me, it starts at the top. And this franchise is going to continue to suck until ownership changes or they literally get the GM, the coach, and everything in place, and they just hands off.
See, right? And I actually think Shad Khan is a good owner. As crazy as that might be to hear, I actually do think he's a great owner. And the reason I say that is because if you look at the history, the history, while it might look ugly, to me shows an owner who wants to win and is willing to almost admit defeat and say I made a bad choice and start over again to try and continuously become better. Where he made a mistake is somehow, for whatever reason, Balky got his ear. And it took him a little while to realize I might like this guy, but he's not doing a good job and I have to let him go.
And nobody else likes this guy.
Right. And I think that's what happened. I think this coaching cycle came around. And I think what was getting back to Shad Khan was, hey, these coaches say they're not going to coach for Balky. Period. End of story. So if that's the GM you want, you're never going to get a coach that you want. And he finally heard it and was like, damn, Balky's my guy. That's my dude. But now we're in a business and I would like to win, so I'm going to have to move on. Yeah. So I think that's what happened. And he finally was willing to say, I've tried everything else. I'm willing to make changes. Trent, we're boys, but you got to go. You got to go. So it'll be interesting to see what happens because I think Liam Cohen is a damn good OC.
To me, I feel like Liam Cohen and Ben Johnson are in that like same scenario of you were good OCs. I don't know if you'll be good head coaches.
Yep. And they're both walking into situations where you have a franchise quarterback with some pieces to work with. So it's not like they're walking into bare cupboards like, say, in Oakland or Houston back in the day or things of that nature.
You mean Vegas? Bad. You mean Vegas?
Yeah, I said Oakland. Damn it. I think I said Los Angeles last week, Pinky.
I hate this so much. I hate it so much. Pete Carroll was the right hire for the Vegas Raiders.
Right. I wanted to not like that. And I was like, damn, that is actually a good hire. What is happening?
Now, again, I loved immediately on Twitter. There's somebody posted the Adam Sandler Big Daddy when his girlfriend dumped him for like an older dude. And she was like, he's got a plan. He's got a 5-year plan. He's like, what is it? To not die? I do think Pete Carroll is a short-term solution to at least getting them on the right track.
Yeah, but if you can have him for, say, 5 years, in those 5 years,
not there.
Pete Carroll can easily put
He's not there 5 years.
I wouldn't be surprised if he is.
I give him 3.
Pete Carroll is the youngest 74-year-old I've ever seen in my life. That dude's walking around like he's 53.
That's because he got tons of good college young poon while he was at USC.
Whatever it is, whatever fountain of youth he dipped into, that dude's in better shape than half the NFL coaches in my mind. So I can easily see a 5-year if he's successful. And at the end of that 5 years, they're in Super Bowl contention conversations because of Brady and Carroll.
What do you think of this hire, Robert?
I personally, it's the only real way, right? Like, if the Raiders are going to be any good, they have to make changes.
So,
period.
There's a point in time. There's a point in time when you need a coach. He might not take you to the Super Bowl, but you need a coach to come in and reset your culture and your team. And I feel like that's what he does.
Yes, because
look, if we're being honest,
like
I think all Broncos fans thought that's kind of what Sean Payton was going to be. I think we've been pleasantly surprised in some situations, but I think a lot of people did think Sean Payton was just kind of that guy like the Pete Carroll. Not necessarily the long-term solution, but we needed somebody to come in and right that ship badly.
Absolutely.
And Carroll's definitely going to do that. Now, I say Carroll and Brady because Brady put the GM in place, and by all accounts, from everything I've heard, very well liked and respected in NFL circles, and was going to get a GM position eventually anyways. So it's not like Brady did some friend a solid, right? He picked somebody who can do the job.
Although he's got the most perfect name for a Brady hire ever.
So be it.
Robert, do you know this guy's name? The GM of the Raiders? Spy Tech.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
That's literally his name.
Yeah.
So is there should be like a whole James Bond thing to it? Like, is he Q? Like, is that his role?
So I like the hire. I loved that Marshawn Lynch showed up to the press conference and is yelling Raiders. Like, I love it. I love it so much.
What's even cool?
So-
Have you seen the when they meet up after the press conference?
Yeah, Pete Carroll didn't know it was him.
Pete Carroll didn't even know Marshawn was there. Not that he didn't know it was him. He didn't even know Marshawn was there. And then,
Amazing.
when he's like, "Oh yeah," and Marshawn's like, "You didn't hear me yelling?" He's like, you were yelling Raiders?" He's like, "Coach, who else was going to say that while you were talking?"
So
I can't wait
as
to
a
see
Broncos-
Marshawn Lynch in the movie coming up here in a couple of weeks.
Dude, let's talk because I want to go to that next weekend. I love that, and I that's why I think Pete Carroll, and I hate it because I don't like of any team, I hate the Raiders quite a bit. I debate back and forth. I might hate the Chargers more because for at least the last decade, like the Chargers are
They've
like
been halfway
voted as
decent.
like. Well, no, the Chargers are voted as the team that's going to like be the
Oh,
dark
yeah,
Super Bowl candidate
Yeah.
like every year, and somehow they still choke it away, right? Even this year they choked it away.
They did.
So like that's why I feel like I kind of hate the Chargers for that point. The Raiders have always just been up and down, up and down, up and down, up and down. This was a great hire. This is a Brady hire. This shows us that Brady has Mark Davis's ear of like, no, this is what we need to do. So the Raiders could be on the come up. They still
Sure.
have some things they got to figure out, but they could be on the come up. And Pete Carroll is a good head coach. He's proven it before. So cheers to Pete Carroll. I'm
Cheers.
glad you got a job, buddy. I'm glad you're back.
Wait till you hear when we get into the offseason after the Super Bowl. Wait till you hear what I think the Raiders should do to put themselves in immediate contention.
Let's see that. Saints have not gotten a coach yet. They're the only team left.
Sounds like Mike McCarthy is at the potential top of that list
Actually, that's rumored, but there's also rumors that they might still be waiting for Spagnuolo for the Chiefs. Now, we don't know yet. Dallas.
This might sound
grabbing
crazy, but in their situation currently, I'd take McCarthy over Spag.
Right, for
Because
sure.
you need to find out if Spencer Rattler is worth keeping or not, and McCarthy's going
He's
to be able
not.
to do that.
He's not.
I wouldn't go that far yet.
Schottenheimer getting the Dallas job.
It
Are
feels
we-
like Jerry hired a yes man. Like, I don't know how else to say it.
Look, this guy was not on anybody's radar. There was nobody asking to interview this guy for a head coaching job. Nobody. I don't get it. I don't get it at all. And Dallas fans, you have a right to be pissed. At this point, as a Cowboys, or I say Raiders, Cowboys fans, you have a right to be pissed. And at this point, my boss is a Cowboys fan. He is so like, I'm just done with the Cowboys. Like,
I've seen a bunch of posts where Cowboys fans are not renewing their season tickets. How true
Like-
that is, I don't know, but it's like, damn.
I just don't. There's nothing you can say to sell this to your fans that this was the best coach you could get. Jerry
Okay, now,
Jones
let me try.
literally
Let me
said,
try. Hang on. Let me try, Pinky. Let me try to make Dallas fans feel a little bit better, okay? Nothing we've said is a knock against Schottenheimer. We're not trying to disparage the man or the coach that he is, because we don't know if he's a good coach or not, because he wasn't the offensive coordinator last year. McCarthy was. He has had interviews in the past for coaching positions. He was never picked, but he has been interviewed in the past. He does come from good lineage. He does know the game. I believe he's a good OC. I don't know if he's a great OC. If If you're going to hire an OC as a coach, you would like to think he's a great OC. But here's where I will give you the silver lining as Dallas fans. What was John Harbaugh when he was hired?
Special teams coordinator.
Special teams coordinator. It may just be one example. There are others, but we're not going to go down the list right now. The point being, you don't necessarily have to be great at the job you had previously as, say, a play caller or a defensive coordinator or this, that, and the other. What you do need to be is a phenomenal leader of men and a phenomenal delegator of power. If you are great at those two things, you can be a great head coach because you don't have to call plays on offense or defense, right? You don't necessarily have to know the ins and outs of those things as long as you can make sure that you hire the right people to put on your staff to be really good at those things. And then if you can be an amazing game manager, then this is a great hire. Why I say this feels like a yes man hire for Jerry, though, is because I feel like I don't have any of those answers about Schottenheimer. I don't know if he's a great leader. I don't know if he can hire the right people to put around him and be a great delegator of power. I don't know if he's even a great OC because he wasn't the one calling the plays last season for the team that he was the OC for. So I think there's a silver light, a light at the end of the tunnel, if you will, to where this could be a great hire, and I won't knock it as a bad hire. But there's also a lot of questions there that we don't have answers to know whether or not it's a bad or great hire.
Let's be honest. If you're a potential offensive coordinator or defensive coordinator, and you've got some pull, you've got some weight, you got people offering you jobs, are you really encouraged to go work for Brian Schottenheimer?
I actually think yes, and this is why I say yes. If the head coach of the Dallas Cowboys is willing to give you control of those play calling duties, which some have in the past, you can make a name for yourself as a coordinator of the Dallas Cowboys.
Good night, little homie.
To the point where you will get a head coaching job next year. I mean,
but the caveat to that, taking risk.
It is. I'm not going to deny that, but it is a risk to do. But it is a very high risk, high reward kind of situation that you can put yourself in. So if you're willing to do that, I think
sounds like it's time to nut up or shut up.
I think you would agree, though, if you are a Dallas fan, this doesn't get you feeling all.
Oh, hell no.
Awesome.
I'm not feeling good about this as a non-Dallas fan. I was just trying to give a little bit of a slight feel-good possibility for those people.
All right. So there's two topics I wanted to reach. We didn't quite get to a season review like I wanted, but that happens sometimes. We've got tons of time in the off season. But I do want to ask this question. Robert, what was your biggest disappointment of the 2024 NFL season?
Biggest disappointment? I don't know.
Could be a team. Could be a player. Could be a coach.
Actually, you know what? Because of what could have been, especially with how the season ended, the most disappointing point of the season for me was when Aiden Hutchinson shattered his leg. That was it.
You know what's crazy about that? He is probably defensive player of the year.
Exactly.
Not probably.
If he doesn't shatter his leg.
Guaranteed run away with. What did he have? Like 8 sacks by week 5?
Yeah, it was nasty.
Like he was the leading sack guy up through like week 10, and he didn't play for 5 weeks.
Nasty.
Yeah,
Nasty.
It was stupid.
Like,
it was stupid.
But that was my disappointing one, because had he stayed with the team the whole season, I mean, who knows about all of the other injuries, right? Like, that anybody's guess at that point. But like, I know that had a major impact in the season.
Absolutely. Caleb, what about you?
Injuries.
Oh,
Injuries was the
man.
biggest disappointment for me this year. That I can't
There's so
remember a
many.
year when injuries played such a drastic role in the outcome of seasons. Chris Godwin going down was a huge deal. Dak going down in Dallas. The amount of injuries that San Francisco had, Philly having injuries, Detroit having injuries that caught, like, the amount of injuries I think about that
Every week,
drastically
Detroit had an
changed the
injury.
way this season went. Shit, Stephen Diggs getting hurt with Houston was a huge loss. Like, there's so many things where I'm like, damn, man. And I know we have injuries every year, but
This
for
year was
whatever
more
reason,
profound.
it really stuck out to me this year. And I could say San Francisco was a disappointment. I could talk about the Bengals or say something like Robert did, but like, I was thinking about it, Pinky, when you kind of gave us that preemptively to kind of put in the back of our minds to discuss tonight. And I just kept coming back to, damn, if that guy wasn't injured. Damn, if that guy wasn't injured. Damn it, what would have that looked like? What would have this? It just felt like a season to me where they played a really big role, more so than what I can remember in recent memory past.
So I had two, but we've already talked a little bit about the Jets, who I feel like were a big disappointment.
Definitely.
I was really disappointed in CJ Stroud this season.
I'm actually kind of surprised to hear you say that, because we talked about how we expected to see some regression this year.
I think we talked about regression of the team, not his performance.
I guess I always kind of thought of it one and the same. Never that he wasn't still really good. I just kind of thought, man, all that crazy stuff that happens. But okay,
look. So CJ Stroud comes out, has a great year. I meet him at the Super Bowl. He's awesome. Signs my jersey, signs my helmet for my son. I get to make my son just like smile and bounce off the wall. Right? That really hits me.
Oh, yeah.
My son wants us to buy CJ Stroud jerseys. We both get a jersey. I watched CJ Stroud every time he was available to watch on TV. Play calling, offensive line, receiver. I don't know. I couldn't pinpoint it. But there were a lot of times the throws he made last year, he didn't make this year.
Yeah,
they weren't
just
clean.
Something was off.
Something was off. And to me, that was a disappointment.
Fair.
And I had him in fantasy too. In a two-quarterback league.
To take it a step further, the whole narrative between him and Bryce Young, and you look at what Bryce Young did to finish the season, and you look at what CJ did to finish the season, very unexpected, complete opposite to where you thought it was going.
You could say Bryce Young played the quarterback position down the stretch better than CJ Stroud.
You could. Absolutely.
I think there's a good argument there. That's why I felt like I was disappointed.
Fair.
Long term, I might not. I think he can bring it back. I think he's the guy with good character, and he's got the skills. I think he can turn it around. But I was disappointed about that. Okay. The other question, at least we'll finish up the show with, what was your biggest surprise? Robert?
Biggest surprise, man. Honestly, I would have to go with the LA Chargers. I mean, we talked about them being a dark horse and everything in preseason and things, but to see them actually execute with Harbaugh at the helm and Herbert, it was a really phenomenal thing to see. Not only to mention with that, I mean, Pinky, that was one of the first game that was my first NFL game to see them play. And to just really see that on the field, that really changed my perspective of the Chargers as a whole, to really say like, okay, no, they really kind of are a solid team. And I mean, they definitely gave us a fight. We came back towards the end of the game, but it just wasn't enough. But they controlled a lot of it, and I saw a lot of a spark from what I couldn't really see from before. So that was my big surprise.
So I love Rich Eisen from the beginning. As soon as Jim Harbaugh got hired, he's a Michigan guy. Loves Jim Harbaugh. Jim Harbaugh will plus the Chargers up.
Mm-hmm.
And he did. He plussed them up. So I love that. Caleb, what about you? What was your biggest surprise of the season?
I mean, there's a lot of things I could say, Pinky. We could talk about Darnold. We could talk about man, I just had a whole list in my head. And now I'm just drawing blanks on that list I had, because if I'm being honest with myself and really talking about my biggest surprise, it's the Broncos. I had Broncos fans at the beginning of the season telling me I'm not a Broncos fan. I should turn in my card. I don't know what I'm talking about. This, that, and the other. Like, I still think I'm right about Peyton, the GM, but I will eat some crow on Peyton, the head coach, and what he was able to do. I did not think he was the wrong guy for Bo Nix, but I openly talked about how I didn't necessarily think he is the right guy either. And any doubts I had about Sean Payton being the head coach of this team going forward were completely dispelled this year for me. He is the dude, and I see a lot of success coming for the Broncos, and that's my biggest surprise.
Well, I will piggyback on that a little bit. And the Broncos are one of my top surprises, and that's a little bit to do with the marriage of Sean Payton and Bo Nix, right? Bo Nix was his guy. He picked him. It looked a little rough early on, but as the season went along, Bo Nix grew and grew, and Bo Nix had one of the best rookie years of all time.
Yep.
When you look at all the numbers. And to me, the two things that really surprised me, the Broncos and the Commanders.
I was going to say, your biggest surprise should be the Commanders, because you had the Broncos at least winning more than I did. So
I had them winning 6 games.
You had the Commanders like in the cellar.
I did. So what I love about both of these teams, new ownership, new quarterbacks, hope for their fans, both quarterbacks doing really great things throughout the season. Both quarterbacks not flinching in the clutch moments, right? Both of them. And it's weird on Twitter because there's like, if you love Jaden Daniels, you hate Bo Nix. If you love Bo Nix, you hate Jaden Daniels. Why?
I don't.
Both of these guys are doing great things for franchises that have been down for years. Now, Commanders have been down for a long, long time. Long time.
I'll take it a step further just because I think it should be stated. Caleb Williams had a really great year, too, as a rookie quarterback for all the shit they went through. Like, these 3 rookie quarterbacks have potential to turn around 3 franchises that have been craving it.
And we'll talk more about it. This rookie class, it's going to be pretty freaking awesome.
Sure looks like it.
Caleb, Drake May was great. Penix came in, and I will say this. When I watched Penix when he came in, that dude can sling it.
Yeah.
And we saw that in college. We had a thought that this guy could probably sling it. As long as you protect him, that dude is smooth. Yep. And he's just throwing darts, man. And that's not even we don't even know about JJ McCarthy yet, right? But at least the 5 guys that we did see play, as a fan, you've got rejuvenated hope. We have our guy. We're not sitting there worrying about, are we picking up Sam Darnold? Are we picking up
right,
Jameis Winston or whoever's out there?
Drake May is going to be the one really interesting one, though, because he's the only one that's getting a whole new staff. So that'll be the one to be really keep an eye on and how he performs. Everybody else should just take a step forward because everything's continuing. So it'll be interesting. Before we go, Pinky, I have a stat that I found. And it's one of those one-off wild, crazy, you can't believe it's true kind of things. And I just found it so fascinating that I felt the need that I had to share it tonight, okay? Teams that lose to Kirk Cousins in the regular season never win the Super Bowl. 2016, Green Bay Packers lost in the wild card. 2017, LA Rams lost in the wild card. 2018, Philly lost in the division. 2019, Philly lost in the wild card. 2020, Chicago wild card. 2020, Green Bay championship game. 2021, Pittsburgh wild card. 2020, like it just goes on. If you lose to Kirk Cousins in the regular season, you are not winning a Super Bowl. One of those weird, crazy, kind of like Jalen Hurts. I need to tell this stat too, because this is the other crazy one I saw this week. We were big on the fact that no quarterback has ever made it back to the Super Bowl if they lost their first time there since Jim Kelly in 1991. Jalen Hurts has now broken that curse. But as someone who's very all too familiar with curses, has he just started a new curse where you make it back, but you're going to lose, and you're going to lose a bunch of times in a row, a la Jim Kelly? So, yeah. Don't want that on your head. Don't want to be the guy that started a new curse that you get back and you lose again. So
we'll find out in 2 weeks.
Just the, sports and their crazy stats and weird, quirky little history lessons that get thrown in there.
Are you kidding me?
All tie together somehow that I just think is crazy. So, yeah. On that note, we went Pinky and his questions caused him to go longer than he could hold it and had to bail. Thank God Robert came to save the day when he did. Since you're here, dude, hope you had a good night. Give me some final thoughts.
Yeah, no, I had a great night. Let's see. I mean, I've been nerding out this weekend playing board games, so I've been really.
Final thoughts on that then. What you got?
Dude, I love Dune. I love board games. Board games are great. I love exercising the brain. It's epic. It's one of the greatest things ever. So I'm like looking forward to being back in the office tomorrow.
Nice.
It's been a nice couple of just relaxing days. So,
Pinky, final thought, good sir.
Final thought. I am excited for the Royal Rumble. We're gonna have a blast. I am excited to see you guys on Saturday.
I just see headphones and a hat talking. Who's this? What's going on?
I've got my outfit ready. It's going to be amazing.
My guy, that's my final thought too. Pinky's birthday Saturday, Royal Rumble. It's going down. We're going to do what we always talk about and spend some quality time with our inner circle. Very much looking forward to that. On that note, you know how we feel. You get those moments. Don't take them for granted. Cherish them. Jump on them. Do as much of them as you possibly can when that family, inner circle, loved ones, family, friends are around and you get that possibility to have that quality time. Everybody that supports us in any way, likes, shares, follows, retweets, whatever, comments, talk to us. We will say it till the day that we no longer do this. We cannot thank you guys enough. We appreciate you more than you will ever know. We understand none of this really matters unless we've got something to interact with. And the fact that you guys continuously tell us we're worth interacting with means the world to us. So on that note, until next week, we'll talk Super Bowl then. Ladies and gentlemen, enjoy your week. We're out. Peace.